favorite longevity lifestyle designers. This is Zach here, and it is the culmination of my 1 week long experiment in terms of doing a high dosage of maca. And so for the final dosage of maca that I'm doing, I've been doing 6 tablespoons a day. I've been doing it in 2 separate 3 tablespoon portions, just because I'm not wanting to do all 6 at once. So this is the final one of my experiment, and I wanted to share with you a recipe I've done a few times during the week, which I find very tasty. A great way to take it in if you're wanting to up the dosage of maca. First of all, just say that my experience with it was interesting. I didn't notice any dramatic changes in myself. I believe it would be a more long-term process of incorporating a higher dosage of maca. Personally, I'm going to drop the dosage after today. I've almost gone through a pound in a whole week, which is quite a bit. I think in the range of 2 to 3 tablespoons a day is probably more sustainable in terms of just not developing sort of like an aversion to it, because it's got a strong flavor. I like it, but I don't love it, so it's not something that I'm overly feel craving. And we are moving into warmer weather here where I'm living, and it's definitely more of a colder climate type of food because it grows at a higher climate. It helps acclimatize you to cold weather, extreme weather, high altitudes. So it can be very beneficial in the winter. I might up my dosage next winter on it. But for now, I'm going to do this recipe to show the 3 tablespoons, a way of getting that much in. If you don't have the palate for that amount, you can always just do 1 or 2, or just do this recipe without the maca. It's a great recipe on its own. So this is an raw oat porridge, and what I'll say about oats right off the bat is that they're a fantastic androgenic food. They build testosterone in the body. Bodybuilders are well known for consuming oats on a daily basis because it has been shown in many studies to increase testosterone production in people who consume it on a regular basis. And also, oats are very high in silicon, and that's a fantastic mineral that many people are deficient in, and it helps build strong bones. It actually biologically transmutates into calcium for the bones, the teeth. It's great for the nails, the hair. It's well known that if you feed oats to a horse or a dog, in terms of mixing it with their food, it gives them very thick, shiny coats. So it's got that aspect to it with the silica. And also, the reason we're eating it raw, well, I'm personally a raw food, so I don't cook any of my food, but the negative aspects of cooking grain specifically is you're increasing the amount of, or you're creating furfuryls and furans, as well as acrylamides. And these are all carcinogenic compounds. Almost, you could think of the way sugar or carbohydrates caramelize at higher temperatures. This is created whenever you're cooking any grain. There's lighter ways of cooking it, and it might not be that detrimental, but if we're really looking for long-term health and minimizing the inflammation in our body, because there are very inflammatory chemicals that are created in the grains. There are definitely certain grains I'd say you probably want to consume cooked if you were consuming them. But with oats, I find it a very palatable grain to be able to consume raw if it's been soaked and almost like germinated. Now, specifically, if you've had the oats with the shell taken off, you're not going to be able to sprout them. Most oat groats you find in grocery stores will not be sproutable, but you can still rinse them or soak them overnight to soften them, as well as remove any remaining enzyme inhibitors that might be on them. Now, you also want to take into consideration that oat groats, which are the whole grain, I don't know, I have something possible for me to show this, because if I go up close, it's just going to get blurry. But if you see that whole grain, it's different from rolled oats, which is the typical flat oat. Flat oats have been steamed and then rolled with a steel press. And this is definitely, it's kind of like mild pasteurization. It's damaged them to some extent. If you don't want to be too finicky, you could consume those. They soak and hydrate very easily, so it's actually very digestible. However, a better way to consume them is the oat groat, which has less processing to it, or the steel cut oats, which is basically the oat groats that have been chopped up, but they haven't been treated with any temperature. You can find that in most health food stores. You find an organic brand. So right off the bat, I'm just going to pour these into a bowl because I want to drain off the excess water from the soaking. And I did approximately a cup of oats, which is about 600 calories, so it's a sufficient meal here. Especially once we add the other things to it. It's going to be around 800 calorie meal, which is quite dense, and it's great because you're not eating a high-fat meal, you're not eating a fruit, sugar meal, so it's a complex carbohydrate, and you're getting a lot of energy out of that without specifically overburdening the liver with too much fat. And that's great for me because I'm on a no sugar thing right now. You could also do half a cup soap. This is, like I said, 1 cup, which turns into about 2 cups soap. Just draining off the water. So once you have that drained, I'd rinse it once more, just like if you were germinating any seeds or anything. You want to rinse it once more just to make sure all the enzyme inhibitors that came out into the water during the soaking process overnight are completely being washed off. So I'm just rinsing and draining it once more. So now that we have the finished product in terms of the grains being drained, etc., I'm going to make a milk to put on top of this, and it's going to be 1.5 cups of spring water with the rest of my buckwheat sprouts here. So I don't know exactly how much this is. You just want to add a few to it. I'm not going to be specific. You can determine that yourself. Basically, the higher the ratio between your whatever milk you're making with this, whether it's a nut milk or grain milk, the thicker and more creamier it's going to be. So this is maybe like a 1:3 ratio, which is sufficiently dense. A real nut milk is often said to be 1 part nuts per 5 parts liquid. So this is maybe 1:3, or even 1:2. It's hard to say, really. But this is the end of some buckwheat sprouts I had, and they fermented a little bit, which is kind of nice. Buckwheat is actually one of the grains I actually enjoy fermented. Quinoa can ferment it, can taste a bit funky, but a little bit of a fermentation helps break down a grain and make it more digestible. It starts changing those starches to a more easily digestible form. I'm going to take a tablespoon of bee pollen and add this to the buckwheat milk here. Kind of spilt a bunch in, not really specific measurement. One of the benefits to doing a starch-based milk is, unlike a nut milk, which is going to not be the greatest combo with a starch like oats, it's going to be very complementary to the oats as well as the maca. It's very starchy, so it should be able to synergize well in our stomach in that way. Also, unlike a nut milk, I'm not going to strain this through a nut milk bag. I'm just going to add it like that. However, you could put it through a nut milk bag and then blend the bee pollen in after that, after you've added it back in, if that's your choice. Now, I've probably made a little too much. Well, yeah, I'm not even going to be able to get most of that in. This is a very full bowl here. I'm actually going to transfer it over to a bigger bowl. So once it's now in the bigger bowl, I'm going to add the rest of the nut milk, or grain milk rather, and throw in the last few ingredients. And I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of maca, because that completes my 6 tablespoons for the day, and my whole experiment here, which has been very successful. Some of the benefits I've seen have been, probably the most pronounced has been massively increased sexual endurance, which is quite fun, quite beneficial to the health in many ways. I haven't been too active, so I haven't noticed in terms of athletic endurance. I haven't been testing that, but I'd assume that that would be another benefit of upping the dosage of maca, because it has that androgenic bodybuilding type of ability. I'm putting also in 1 tablespoon of mesquite, which just tastes great. And then also I'm sprinkling in a bunch of coconut flakes, shredded coconut, just straight out of the bag, not a specific amount. Maybe like 1 or 2 tablespoons, it's up to you. And a small amount of liquid stevia. That might be too much, it's probably going to be very sweet for me. Oh well. Now this is delicious, it turned out very well. It's quite soupy. I would have done less grain milk the next time, but yeah. My spoon is tiny too, oh well. Try the recipe out and try it yourself. Let me know if you like it, and have a good day.